Hello, listeners. This is Roopa from Touch a Life Foundation, bringing you an episode of the Career Elevations. I have the proud privilege to talk to Barry Rudolph, who has joined us as part of the TAL leaders at Touch a Life Foundation. Welcome, Barry. Hello, and how are you today?
I am doing great. It's great to be here, Roopa. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Barry, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what has your journey been so far?
Well, it's been a fairly long journey for sure, but that's so at the moment I'm not a young guy. I'm 68 years old. I'm no longer working full time. I'll talk a little bit about it. I was CEO of a startup company that we sold about last September, so 7 or 8 months ago. But I'm on one public company board. I'm on one private company board. I'm on 3 advisory groups, and then I'm starting to work on Touch a Life. So, and taking care of a couple of days a week, 2 grandkids, one 2 and one 6 months, which is where I'm at today, actually. So they're upstairs doing whatever. There may be chaos upstairs for all I know. That's what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. I mean, it really makes me excited to see how rich your entire journey has been and the variety of things that you have been doing now and what you have accomplished. Tell us a little bit about your corporate journey prior to going into this mode of operation.
Sure. So, well, let's see, where do I even start? I'll real briefly, I've always been kind of somebody interested in technical stuff, and given my age and time frame, a lot of it around radio and communications and that kind of thing. So I think I built my first shortwave radio when I was 6, and it blew up when I plugged it in. So it wasn't a great start, but we tried. And so I've always kind of been interested in that. My educational background, I got a bachelor's degree in general engineering and then a master's degree in electrical engineering, and then subsequent to that, a master's in business. And I joined the IBM company after I got out of graduate school with the engineering degree, and did about everything you could do in a product-related group for the first half of my career. I was with IBM for a short, little, tiny period of 33 years. And the first half of my career, I did, I probably wouldn't be able to remember all the stuff, but manufacturing engineering, test engineering, quality, field support, level 1, level 2, level 3, software development, ASICs development, hardware development. So that, again, I can't remember all this stuff. I was obviously not very good at anything, so I kept moving around and getting good experiences, et cetera. And then I had an opportunity. I'd been with IBM probably 10 years, and had kind of an interesting transition, kind of a career-changing thing. I got involved for the first time with a customer, and it was on a product that we were just about ready to make generally available and had an issue with it. And they were doing an early ship program with us. And so I got to actually go, form a group and actually understand what the problem was and get it fixed and then go talk to the customer. And what was life-changing about it is I had always been in kind of hardware and infrastructure and that kind of stuff. And these customers, all they wanted to talk to me about was software and the environment that they lived with. And I'd been, like I said, there 10 years. I had no idea what the heck they were talking about. And so I came back to the ranch, so to speak, and got some mentors that helped me understand what in the world these customers were talking about. And it just expanded my point of view entirely, gave me an opportunity to communicate with people and et cetera. So I actually anointed myself as their partner. This was a company called US West, which is one of the phone companies, the regional bell companies in the United States on the West Coast, Northwest. And it was really life-changing in a number of dimensions: communications, interaction with people, learning kind of a broader set of skills, and really kind of changed my career vector for sure. So that was kind of the first half of my career. And then I got an opportunity to actually run worldwide businesses. And really, really different. By that time, I'd gotten an MBA and thought I knew all sorts of cool stuff about business and P&Ls and all that kind of thing, and marketing, et cetera. So the first business I ran was a backup archive business with tape drives and big robotic libraries and backup software and that kind of stuff. And we grew it from, I don't know, about 700 million a year to 1.2 billion in about 2.5 years. So it was a lot of fun. And I very much realized the power of having a team that actually knows what they're doing and are skilled at marketing and skilled at go-to-market models, et cetera. And a lot of things I thought I knew from just learning in the university, I really didn't know, but I learned. So it really life-changing again to run a worldwide business. And then I got an opportunity to run the big disk storage array business for IBM. That was quite a bit larger. That was close to 5 billion a year, and I don't know, maybe 10 or 15,000 people in it. Then did some work in networking and just a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of different experiences. Acquired a few companies. The last one was in the Bay Area. And then I retired from IBM. So at the end of 2010. So
Wow.
So that was the IBM piece of the equation. I don't know if you want to talk about what's after that. There's been about 2 years after that, but
definitely. Let's just kind of recap a few things that I thought that was amazing in your 33 years of IBM. One, I think what you told me about your childhood, working on a little radio that blew up. Failure is always the first part of success as you see it grow. So that I thought was a really cool story to relate to. The other piece that caught my attention was your next phase of journey. You started working with your engineering degree and then got yourself into one of the larger companies at that time, coming out of college. And again, you talked about how you dabbled with many, many, many facets of the business. And the third point of intervention that I thought was a really key highlight was your life-changing moment with working with the customers. So I think as we all kind of choose careers or pivot on careers or look to grow and be that superstar that you want to be and achieve what Barry Rudolph has in all of his 33 years, I think is about opening your avenues, learning and keeping that learning constant. And then you talked about moving into your business degree and not, you had no real life experiences, but you had all the cool ideas to work with. So that's, again, another fantastic thing to kind of keep in mind as you move through the career ranks. I think it's also important to kind of reflect back and say, do I know it all, or do I hire people that know it all to support me and be able to understand that final mission or strategy to success for yourself and for the organization that you work for? So,
absolutely. I have a couple of comments just on your comments, Roopa. One of the things that was really important, and sometimes I got some help. A lot of times I got help. I'll make two comments. One around failure. It's really easy to get comfortable. And sometimes at a big corporation, it's even easier, right? You can kind of find your little niche and become very comfortable. And in some cases, get very good at a very narrow element. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It means some really brilliant people that make big impacts have these kind of very narrow type focused skills. For me, it was the ability to keep getting up every time that there was something that got in the way, and not in an aggressive context, but just being willing to learn from the things that happened that didn't go as I thought they were going to go, and keep working on it. The other comment I'll make, and it was the transition when I started running businesses from being a working engineer, an engineering manager, or a functional manager. I got a little help with that. I was very comfortable in the technical roles, and probably suited my history and background. But I also wanted to have an impact on the business in a broader context. And so I got an opportunity to run this tape and backup business. And the senior executive that was running the entire group, so probably had maybe a $20 billion business, $30 billion business. He suggested that I should go do this. And I was very comfortable doing what I was doing. So I said no. And he asked me again, and I said no, with some really good reasons. And the third time he asked me in the following context: would you like to go run this business for us, or would you like me to fire you? And so my answer was, this is a great idea. I'm going to go run this business. This is going to be a great plan. So I got some nudging along the way, but the lesson was, fantastic. Be willing to step outside your comfort zone. I learned so much, and my career and my professional life changed immensely with that nudge, and all for the better. My impact on the company, the business, customers, the things that I learned, the people I got to work with, really expanded dramatically. So I'm always been thankful for that nudge, and it took the nudge, to be honest. But be willing to step outside your comfort zone and learn. That's a really important thing.
Absolutely. That was pretty nice. And it's actually a fantastic segue to my next question to you, Barry. I was going to ask you, how did you get to the point where people recognized your greatness, but sometimes you probably didn't know it, like you said initially, or maybe not willing to step out of the box or take that risk at that point in time? How do you surround yourself with inspired people, or people who can give you that opportunity? How do you do that?
Well, I can speak just for my own experiences and not only for myself, but others. So I think the one thing is kind of understanding yourself is important, and knowing what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And we all have both. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And I'll use an anecdotal element just to make that point. I'm a very, very structured person. I like structure. I like to-do lists. I like approaching problems, and part of that's you're trained that way as an engineer. I'm probably annoyingly so, frankly, and so I always wanted to have around me colleagues that were, I call them orthogonal thinkers, that they just thought completely out of the box. One gentleman I had working with me for a number of years, his name was Larry. Larry would come into my office and go, Barry, I got this great idea. How about this? And I would say, Larry, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He'd go, fine. How about this? Larry, still not very bright. And Larry would say, okay, that's no problem. How about this? And I would say, Larry, that is brilliant. I would have never thought of that in a million years. And so that recognition of diversity, and that recognition of complementary skills, and staying focused on helping people with what they want in their careers is really, it sounds altruistic, but in fact, it can even be viewed as self-serving, and it helps everybody, and it helps kind of the organization move forward, and helps customers, et cetera. So that's in one context. The other comment I'll make relative to this visibility in a larger company, that started for me when I took a role of supporting customers, and supporting customers that were having challenges, and et cetera. So at one point I had all of the level 1 people and level 2 and all the product engineers for, a pretty big business in 170 countries. And so you have a real opportunity to interact with people that actually use what you deliver to them and what you produce. And it's very, very enriching, and you learn a lot. And you get visibility in the organization as well, assuming you can actually solve problems and make customers happier and more productive, et cetera. So those are the things that at least come to mind in your question, Roopa.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's just such a great perspective to have. And almost, I think I'm going to use it real time because I'm in a little bit of a stuck situation. So I love that analogy. And I think I'm going to follow Larry's path there for you with multiple options going back because I have no dearth of ideas. That's fantastic. Last question I wanted to kind of ask you is what would you change, or if any, that you would change if I were to talk to Barry 20 years ago? Is there anything that you would change or anything that you would do differently from what you've done?
It's kind of a mixed answer. I mean, everybody has things they wish they would have done differently, obviously. And as you get older, you have more opportunity to contemplate that because you have a longer timeline, obviously. After IBM, I joined boards. I became a CEO of a startup, and I wouldn't change any of that, even though it was somewhat time consuming and not exactly what I had in mind when I quote retired, but an amazing adventure and required a very different level of skills than a big corporation. A startup with just a handful of people was every bit as hard as running a business with 10 or 15,000 people associated with the business. I think the only thing looking back on it that I wish I had done less of, but it's mixed as well, is travel. I traveled somewhere between 30, at least 1 or 2 days during the week, between 35 and 50 weeks a year for 27 years or so. I've got like 6 million miles on American Airlines. And it's a rich experience. It was almost always to customers or partners or value-added resellers or channel partners, et cetera. But I missed a lot of my personal life. I missed seeing my kids grow up as much as, in retrospect, I wish had been around more. Luckily, they've all turned out fine and great and have grandkids and lives of their own, et cetera. But that's probably the only thing is work-life balance and trying to figure out the hard work of balancing your life, because it's hard if you've got a lot of responsibility and people depending on you and in both of the dimensions. So that's probably the one area that I would be more introspective on, probably.
Perfect. That's such a great close for our career elevations topic today. So thank you so much for joining me, Barry. And listeners, please come back and reach out to us at Touch a Life Foundation and listen to Barry's story. And I'm sure you're going to draw a couple or more ideas or avenues or perspectives to think about for your own careers and for your own positioning as an entrepreneur, as a corporate worker, or a startup idea for yourself. So thank you once again, and definitely listen to us on TALRadio. Thank you again, listeners.